everyone, my name's Emma. Today we are talking about the Netflix show The One. When it comes to choices and decisions, the ones that we make with more intention will help us create the world that we want to live in. So we talk about here on this channel, how can we take lessons from our lives in every capacity and apply them to live a better and more fulfilled life. Now, The One is a Netflix show that is based on science fiction, and the opening scene is a woman talking about how if you submit your DNA to a database, they are able to match you to your ideal match, to your ideal person, to the one, your soulmate. And they are selling this as there's only one person that you could ever be matched to, but they're also selling it in the sense that you need to find this person if you want to feel fulfilled, if you want to feel as if you've known somebody for your whole life, as if you've met somebody who already understands you in ways that nobody else has ever been able to fulfill. And the first issue or first lesson that we can learn from this is that we are constantly trying to be sold this idea of the one, of a soulmate. And the reality of it is, no matter who you end up marrying, no matter who you end up spending most of your time with, you are your own the one. You are going to spend every single day, every single moment, every single second of every day for the rest of your life with yourself. And if that thought scares you, or if you don't like thinking about it, there is something deeper there that we need to dig into and need to really figure out, because we are trying to force this idea of somebody's going to know me as if they've known me their whole lives. And the only person that's ever going to be able to do that is you. You are the only person who knows what you've been through, what you felt, how you've dealt with things, what you've gone through. No matter how many hours you spend explaining to someone, you are the only person who has ever felt every single thing and understands it completely. And we need to not be scared by that. We need to understand how valuable that is, that there is this reservoir of information about ourselves just locked inside of us. And if we were to unlock it, we would learn so much about ourselves. And we can do that by looking at simple things that we do every day. What are some of the things that we can do right now to figure out how we are the one? How can we learn more about ourselves? Look at the things that you like to do every day. Look at the things that you don't like to do every day. Look at the people that you talk to. What do you like about them? What do you not like about them? All of those pieces of information. What food do you like? What exercises do you like? What exercises don't you like? What food don't you like? All of those are pieces of information of who you are at the core of your being. And then you can figure out lists of things that you like, things you don't like, things you love, things you don't like doing, things that have hurt you. And now you have an archive of how you have felt in various times in your life. And now you can choose to replicate certain events. You can choose to avoid certain ones that made you feel uncomfortable. You have this plethora, this abundance of information that lives inside of you and that is being shown through the day, through everyone that you interact with. The world is affected by the fact that we are observing it. So when we look at something, we are therefore affecting it because of our view of it. So we have quite a lot of power over how we approach this world if we understand that, if we choose to really see that. When you interact with someone, you are automatically changing your image of them in your mind based off of your own experiences. So we need to figure out what our experiences are, what our emotions are, and how we are affecting ourselves and others by feeling those things. So we need to do some work, just write out all the different things that you're interested in, that you like. Go into detail, because that is going to be this guidebook of what you actually want in a person, in a partner, in a friend, and what you expect from others. You may act as if I don't expect anything. And we often say these blanketed words of we're so amazing, we're so awesome, which leads me into this next point of oftentimes we are trying to sell some kind of version of ourselves to others. And usually people are trying to sell some version of themselves to us as well. Now, in this first opening scene, she's talking about how amazing she has felt and has been since she's found the one. And her partner is taken out on stage and they kiss. And then very quickly we figure out that this actually isn't her, the one. That the person that she did fall in love with, that isn't him. And so we also have to understand that what people are telling us, we can only accept that. But we can also look at it a little bit deeper and understand what is it that they're actually saying. And to not be clouded by this judgment of, is this person going to be my best friend forever? Is this person going to be the person I'm going to be with forever? But actually understand and take a step back and see, what is this person actually saying through their words and through their actions? Are they matching up? Is there a discrepancy? What is their view of the world? How do they interact with others? How are they interacting with me? What are they telling me when they're telling me certain things, when they're giving me advice? What are they actually saying? And this becomes a lot easier to do if we do that work from the first lesson of, hey, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. This is actually how I like my coffee. This is how I feel about this, how I feel about that. And if we have this written out guide of how we feel about things, we become more able to understand that people aren't doing that work and that they're constantly trying to sell us something that they're trying to sell themselves. Someone who is constantly saying, oh, I'm so honest, I'm so kind, I'm so humble, is usually somebody who's trying to convince you just as much as they're trying to convince themselves. And we need to be aware of that. And we need to figure out how their actions are contradicting what their words are saying. And if their words are actually matching up to their actions. And this isn't a game where we need to overanalyze everything, but to really take a step back and say, all right, well, this is what they're saying. This is how they're acting. It's not matching up. Is this even something that I'm interested in dealing with right now? And when we're not convinced that we need to find this the one, it becomes a lot easier to understand what role people are playing and what role they're not playing, and where they need to take a step back and say, you know what, this actually isn't a good fit. No matter how long you've known someone, no matter how short of a time you've known someone, there's always data to be taken and to be mined from knowing that person and having interactions with them. So that also means that we need to meet more people. And I know during this time it's been very difficult to meet people. That means that we can do more of that work for ourselves. You know, take some time to really get to know who you are. Why do you make certain decisions? What makes you happy? What food do you like? What food don't you like? What are things that are non-negotiable? But we have to understand who we are first if we want to have a chance of understanding how people are interacting with us and with their world around them. Which brings me into this other point of, don't ask questions that you don't want the answers to. In the show, there is another woman who is married, but she wants to find her husband's match. So she submits his DNA. She finds out that the match lives in London and that she exists very close by. And she's so worried about her husband ever meeting her, and she ends up creating this issue where she forces them to meet accidentally. And she was like, oh my God, I did this. How do I get rid of her? And she creates this huge mess out of her just not being able to accept that the person that she was with actually wanted to be with her. And again, when we look at, well, what does that indicate about her? She probably feels like she wants to know her the one, but she's projecting that onto her husband and saying, he is the one who is going to leave me. So the show continues. Those are two of the more important storylines. And then we figure out that the person who created the DNA test has been lying a lot, has been very not caring about other people being happy, and has actually done the exact opposite for a great deal of her life. And we start to realize the same thing with her. She's trying to say, oh, I want everyone to be as happy as me. But she's not happy, and she's actually made sure that a lot of people aren't happy because of her behavior. And then when we are searching for questions that we don't want the answers to, we start to create this loop in our lives where problems seem to arise out of nowhere. But if the woman had just done the work and said, I actually want to find the one, but why do I want to find the one? Where do I feel uncomfortable? What isn't working here? How do I deal with this? How can I do the self-work to reflect a better version of myself? And because ourselves are the one, we need to understand that our partner is not going to fulfill every need that we are ever going to have. They are going to be a complement to your life. They are not going to be your entire life. They are not going to be the be all, the end all. They're going to be valuable addition to your existence. They are going to be providing you with a source of laughter, of emotions, of a partner who is going to be there in times where you may not want to be alone. But we need to understand that if we turn this partner into this creature that is above all, we're going to be very shocked when we realize that this person is a human who has flaws, who has their own views of their world, their own perspectives, and that we can change them. And that's another important lesson, that we can change other people. And us trying to change them is us trying to change something in ourselves to better match the idea that we have of ourselves. We're suffering with this false idea of who we are and what image we're portraying to the world. So we're trying to fix that by trying to fix other people. That's why we want to go after people who don't want us. We want to take somebody who we see as a project, that we want to see their potential be realized, because we want that potential to be realized in ourselves. But because we are not willing to admit that to ourselves, we're constantly projecting our emotions and feelings to other people. We cannot do that if we want to have a sustained core of understanding who we are, that we are our own, the soulmate, the one, this idea of a person who is going to be with us through the good, the bad, the ugly, the amazing, the difficult, the grief, the change, and we are the only ones who can ever be that for ourselves. And that it's okay if that person that you have turned into this infallible creature turns out to be a person who is flawed and has mistakes, and that you're finally seeing them as a person for the first time who has their own views and opinions and thoughts and perspectives, and is equally allowed to feel and move through those emotions and feelings. And we need to be careful that we aren't doing this to people constantly, that we aren't turning them into this creature of fantasy, and that when we realize we can't let somebody go, it's because we've turned them into a fantasy. And that's another big part of this, that there's this fantasy of the one, the perfect. This fantasy is perfect because fantasies are whatever we want them to be. They can be turned into beautiful, amazing caricatures of people that fit our thoughts, desires, needs, and images of ourselves and of the world perfectly. But they exist in perfection because they exist in our minds. But we also exist in our own minds. And wouldn't it be worth so much more of our time if we take the time to realize, hey, how do I feel about myself? How do I feel about the world? And what does that feeling reflect about me to the world? We need to do that work. And I've written over 40 different sheets of paper where I have looked into pretty much every single aspect that you can think of. Why I brush my teeth the way I do, how I feel about my teeth, how I feel about my hair, how I feel about exercising, how I feel about food. I figured out that I have relationships with so many things in my life that us focusing on one relationship with one person is doing us a great disservice. And that is what the one is focused on, is finding this one relationship so you can ignore everything else in your life, and that you can become more comfortable with forcing all of your expectations, your beliefs, your thoughts onto this one relationship. But we have relationships with everything in our life. You have a relationship with your phone, with social media, with food, with exercise, with your view of the past, with your view of the future, with your career, with exercise, with brushing your teeth, with your physical health, your mental health, your hair. You have relationships with almost anything that you can think of. You have a relationship with it. And what are those relationships made out of? What are those relationships missing that you're trying to project into a relationship with the one? This is some of the analysis that I have been doing since I created my YouTube channel. This is the 100th video, and it's a very full circle that it's about the one. And I had to realize that I am my own soulmate, my own the one, and that trying to project that onto other people is where a lot of friendships, relationships have failed to project this idea of, oh, they have so much potential, they have so much of this, and turning this person into completely different from the person standing in front of me. I had to dig in, do that work, get really comfortable with being by myself and to understand, you know what, it's okay. This person is just a person. They are not the one because I am the one. And this show does a fantastic job at going into those details and really showing us that this image is something that we've tried to sell ourselves to others and one that has hurt us along the way. And if we can get anything from that show, it's that we need to stop believing in this, that it's science fiction because we cannot find somebody who is a perfect complement. That person already exists and it exists inside of you, and we need to realize that and understand that we have so many relationships in our lives that we have no idea about and no idea why they exist that way. And if we did that work, we would start to see people as people, and we would start appreciating them for that fact. Not wanting them in our lives because we want to change something about them, because we identify with something in them that is also wrong with us, or so we believe is wrong with us. We start to enjoy people for the conversations that they offer, for their view of the world that they offer, for having an ability to just laugh with that person and to just be present in that moment with that person. And we can do that hard work right now. We all have little access to going and meeting brand new people. So why don't we take a moment and meet ourselves again for the first time and really enjoy getting to know who we are, so that when we meet someone, we're not projecting all these emotions and feelings and expectations, but rather we're enjoying the conversation. We're getting to learn about sports, or we're getting to just learn about a person and their life stories and their fun that they've had throughout life, and to understand that we are all living and trying to understand our place in this world. And we can do ourselves a favor by going into our relationships that we have with everything that we interact with on a daily basis and understand how it affects us, so that we're not projecting anything onto anyone else. And all that potential we want to realize in someone else is the potential we want to realize in ourselves. And we can do it. That is really what this YouTube channel has been for me. I constantly try to see potential in everyone else, and then I was like, you know what, but this is something that you want to do and you can go for it. And I want to promise you that spending any amount of time doing the thing that you want to do, the thing that interests you, no matter what other people say, is much more valuable than spending time with people who don't respect you, who don't care to reach out to you, who don't want to talk to you. It is much more valuable to spend time with yourself in a creative and honest and truthful, authentic way to yourself than it will ever be to constantly hold on to people who don't even want to be there. Give yourself that time, space, appreciation, and understanding of potential that you have tried to hand to everyone else. And that is what I would say to myself if I was to start these videos tomorrow. But I know that I had to go through all of these videos to get to this point, and we need to be appreciative of life and understand that all the things that we go through are valuable and important, and everything happens for a reason, and that we need to get more comfortable with ourselves, and that there's no one that can come into your life to fix your view of things, to fix your viewpoint, to fix anything. There's nothing to fix. We just have to understand ourselves a bit more. No one's broken, you're not broken, that person's not broken, the world's not broken. Our view of it just needs to change, and our attitude and our choices need to change accordingly. We need to become more intentional by just understanding what choices we actually even like making, what makes us feel better, what makes us feel bad, and move accordingly with that information. But we have to do the work first. So I hope you check out the one on Netflix or one of the other shows, and no matter what show you do check out, really look at the lessons that are offered in it and the truth that exists all around us. And it's a truth that exists for all of us. And it's up to us to choose if we want to see it, but it all begins with a choice. I hope you got something out of today's video. I hope to see you soon, but until then, I hope you have an amazing day.